Okay, what's going on, everybody? Super pumped to be here. This is a really talented, excellent group of people. It's really cool to see security professionals coming around this Gen AI community. Right, we're in two different worlds over here. So, next slide. Let's get into the talk here. So, yeah, my name is Dylan. I am a co-founder and head of research at a brand new cybersecurity company. So we're in stealth. We're building. Stay tuned. Really excited to share some of that in the near future. Today, I'm here to talk to you about really what I think is lessons learned for me from a year or more of building around LLMs in the cybersecurity domain. Right. So for a quick agenda, um, talk about why are we here? Like, why should I care about this, right? And then we're gonna go through what I think is a really straightforward three-step process to build with LLMs, no matter the domain area, right? And so it doesn't matter if you're in compliance or trust, if you're an AppSec, threat intel, blue team, red team, doesn't matter. Everything that you'll learn here today will apply. So we can go next. And so first, why are we here? Like, why should you pay attention to this talk in particular? Next, please. Um, so I don't know if this cartoon resonates with anybody. It certainly does with me. And so we're 2 years post Chat GPT boom here, right? Things are starting to crystallize, I think, right? But unfortunately, the reality is design patterns, best practices, they're literally changing every single day. And it's exhausting. There's new models, there's new techniques, and you're a security professional. I'm a security professional. We have day jobs. I don't have time to keep up with all this, right? I want to learn how to focus productively, right? So if we go into the next slide, um, it's crazy. You know, there's 9,000 different prompt engineering techniques. There's 9,000 different implementations of RAG, agentic frameworks. You get the idea. And so what I want to show you today is don't really pay attention to all this for a second. You know, I'm going to try to give you a way to focus in a productive way so we can just get to building, right? And if you want to have a fun Easter egg hunt, I even made up some of the terms on this slide, but you can't tell the difference, honestly. So next slide. Okay. So that's why we're here, right? Help me focus in a productive way. But why should we care? Like, why build with LLMs at all? Right? Next. And I think it comes down to one thing. This is why you should care. Let's make one person on your team equivalent to 10. And if you think about it, if we have three different teams and they have access to the same tools, technologies, they have identical processes, and they have roughly the same talent, what's the difference between a team of one, a team of 10, and a team of 100? So I want you to kind of think about that. You know, the technology to do this is already here. And this is such an incredible lever for us as security professionals to pull, right? So let's get into the next one. Okay, so the first step in this process, um, boring word. This doesn't sound fun. This sounds super bureaucratic. Standard operating procedure. I don't like that. So I'm going to tell you right here, right now. This is the most important step. This is the most critical step. Do not skimp on it. Take your time, and I'm going to show you why this is going to set up the rest of what we're going to do. Right. And so, standard operating procedure, you know, it's just a list of step-by-step instructions that a human or a machine, in our case, would follow to accomplish a task. Right. Next slide. And so, why an SOP? Like, why are we doing this? So throwback to a little book called The E-Myth. I believe it came out late 80s, early 90s. And a key motif in this book is, you know, what really makes a successful growing business. If you think about it, it really comes down to this idea of having really well-defined procedures or systems or standard operating procedures, right? That way we can scale consistently. And so throwback to McDonald's, they did it right. They pioneered this kind of approach, and this is a way to show you how why sitting down and coming up with this SOP or this system is super, super important. And so for this slide, I just want you to walk away with why we're doing this is because humans are good at some things, and and LLMs are good at others, right? And we want to leverage both together. So next slide. So, if we pick on one area of expertise, compliance folks, I know you answer a lot of security questionnaires. Um, so what we want to do is just write down the steps that you do. And it's funny because if you ask two different people, if you have a very detail oriented person, they might give you a 50-step process instead of a 5-step process. And neither is right or wrong, right? So what write this down, just get it out on paper, think about it. And the next slide, what I want you to do is sit down and label each step with one of three things. The first is tools or actions. Think about for that step, did you go to an external service or a system or a tool? Write that down. Where was it? Did you go to an email? Did you go to your risk register? The second is writing down knowledge. So think of what's the context that is needed at that particular step to complete the task. You went to a risk register. Which one? Where was the data? Did you kind of just know the answer? You know, it's not really written down anywhere. Write that down, right? And the third, which I feel like people skip a lot, is mark each step as whether you need to use a large language model at all. Think of it as a function of risk or impact for each step, right? Right now, I might not be comfortable with my AI going to talk to the customer and send the responses back yet. That's fine. Let's put the human there, right? But if we look at these other steps, LLMs are going to be a huge help for this, right? So in the next, and what you'll do is iterate over this, refine it. You'll make more steps more detailed, more clear. And you'll kind of form this structured decision path, right? For example, let's combine steps 1 through 3. They share context. It's more congruent that way. Makes sense, right? We're using the same tools there, same knowledge. Let's iterate at this step, right? It's more of like a revision, like I'm writing, I'm editing. Let's iterate at one step or the other. And you'll get more detail. So like look up and collect relevant security controls. That could be a lot of things, right? Well, I go to Google Drive. I also go to our risk register, et cetera, et cetera. So refine this over time. And on the next slide, you'll see as we do this, don't get complex for the sake of complexity. We'll start simple in these workflows, right? This is our SOP. This is our system. This is our procedure. And you'll refine this over time. And if we go to the next slide, um, another part of why this step is so important is think of all the information necessary to complete task accurately and completely. Think about it. It is a finite amount of things. Okay. And so the reason we do this standard operating procedure is because we're able to articulate where and what that knowledge is, right? So, for example, the knowledge from the pre-trained frontier models like Claude, that might uh, be sufficient for a majority of the steps. Well, we're going to try that, right? But also, I have internal security documentation. It's not going to know that. We have an internal security control DB. And then even things that aren't even written down, things that are in your team or your head, right? That tribal, that institutional knowledge, right? So think about that. Next. Okay, so step two. So we have our SOP. Great. All this is we're going to operationalize that guy, right? And so in the next slide, think of these as very simple LLM building blocks. These are your Legos, right? You'll notice from the previous slide, I don't have a bunch of names of tools here, software libraries. We got a few techniques, but um, keep it simple. I put things into three buckets here, right? We want to implement our SOP. Prompt engineering, it's context at inference, setting that up. That's all the heavy lifting. Notice how I put RAG under the umbrella here. Okay. That's all it's doing. It's augmenting the prompt. The second thing is the business logic. So in our compliance use case, Think of all this is the conditional logic or the orchestration, right? The steps around the LLM. Uh, could it take the form of an agent? Sure. There's several different kinds of agents. Sure. Maybe you read this new design pattern. We hear a lot about Jeff Bezos. I think it's the two pizza rule, or set people, seven agents is kind of the optimal group of agents to use with a manager, with a supervisor, right? Try that. That works great. Or maybe there's no agents at all. And it's as simple as let's chain three prompts together, right? And then your third bucket is the models themselves, right? And so next slide. And so this is one of my favorite uh, diagrams to illustrate this. It's called the LLM triangle principle. And really what I want you to see here is how the SOP is the backbone of all of these decisions that we're going to make when we're building with them, right? So keep that in mind. And then next. Okay, and so if you've noticed the LLM toolkit, there's a lot of stuff I didn't include. I did not include fine tuning. I did not include training. And this is a rough figure, a rough estimate of what I think is representative of the real world. And I just want to show you that despite these thousands of emerging techniques and new ways to do things, that sticking to the basics is what everyone is doing, and that's what gets you really, really far, right? So keep that in mind too. Next. And don't reinvent the wheel here. Folks have been building with this for around 2 years now. Think of it as try your best to keep what you're building simple, modular, keep it composed right. And there's some excellent literature out there already from companies like Vellum, from companies like Anthropic on how to build these LLM workflows or cognitive architectures, whatever you want to call it, right? Next. Okay, and really quick, we're gonna do a quick game in the style of Matthew McConaughey called Green Light, Red Light. Green lights are things, if you're doing them, keep doing it full speed ahead. That's great. Red lights, stop it immediately. I'm going to save you some time, pain, and suffering, right? So we'll go next. Okay, green lights. So prompt engineering. You're doing it a lot. You're spending a lot of time here. You're iterating, trial and error. That's great. Keep doing it. Um, looking at back to our SOP, focusing on small and specialized steps, right? This is really, really, really helpful. Decompose that overall task. And I know people throw this last one around a lot. I've heard some more disparaging terms, but interns, we love you guys. You guys rock. But interns can't read your mind. Help them out a little bit, right? Set them up for success. Give them access to the right things. Have really well defined onboarding documentation, right? Think of it like that. And then the next slide. Okay, red lights. So using agents for the sake of agents, using fine tuning for the sake of fine tuning, right? It's very tempting to jump to all of these more of all these different techniques out there, right? And just the theme here I want to show you is try your best not to build black boxes. And I'm not talking about the LLM itself. Black box software libraries, black box frameworks, or design patterns, right? Try your best to always have visibility, especially into that last mile prompt, so to speak, before inference at the model, right? So keep that in mind as you're building, right? So next, and then our third and final step is we're scientists today and we're engineers, right? Scientific method, we want to measure and we want to improve, right? So next slide. I'll try to keep it very simple. And if you think about it, how do we measure humans today? Like, how do we measure our teammates and our coworkers? Maybe resumes, CVs, or they've established credibility in a lot of different ways. You might have a certificate. I might have worked with you for 5 years. I trust you. I know you. How do we measure software? Things like unit tests, functional tests, integration tests, right? And then how do we measure LLMs? And so the common practice that's coming out on top today is measuring them with other LLMs, right? LLM is a judge. And so the next slide, uh, what I want you to walk away with is you don't have to don't necessarily use one or the other, right? We want to try our best to use all three of those methods. Always start out. You're the human. You're the subject matter expert. You're the compliance person. You understand what's good, and what's bad, whether it's coming out of an LLM or a human or your coworker, right? So you always look at the data, the results, right? Mark those. To speed this up a little bit, we could use LLM as a judge. And if you think about it, all it really is a human proxy, right? And then thirdly, always where you can, try to use things like assertions, try to use things like unit tests, right? So next slide. And then optimizing, right? Let's keep it really simple. We have all these tools in our toolbox. Um, I want to increase the quality, the consistency, the accuracy of my LLM application, right? And I want to reduce hallucinations. And you'll quickly find that it's pretty quick and easy to get started here. It's the first 80% if we use the 80-20 rule, right? But it's kind of that last 10-20% that becomes really, really difficult. But I want you to think about that these same principles that we've learned today still apply, right? And the next slide. And so to kind of wrap it up here, I always love sharing resources, tools. I feel like that helped me get an idea out of my head on a paper, so to speak, really quickly. There's an excellent number of tools. If you're not a developer or a software engineer like me, you prefer coding in a more visual way, that's great. Use tools like that. If you are a developer, there's a multitude of libraries out there that you can check out and start building around the LLM with, right? And then last slide. I'll leave you with this. We'll make sure you get the link. Um, this is still being added to. This is a culmination of all the resources I've come across that I think have helped me and are super useful. Everything from white papers, blogs, building with LLMs in cyber domains, YouTube videos, etc. So I'll leave you with that. And I think if we have time for questions, that's the end.
All right. We do, in fact, have some questions. So, pulling out from our list here. First of all, Vince says, hello. I checked out your Diana tool a couple days ago. Was thinking that since you designed it with XAI originally, would that be the route you would still go? Or would you do something, say, Perplexity or Agena API?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for folks on the call, so Dyna was an open source tool. What it did was went from a idea for a detection to a finished analytic detection, right? And so to answer the question, um, Exa stood out to me in particular as their approach is let's kind of do RAG over the web. I mean, you'll find that you get a lot more higher quality, more niche results for your search than something like a typical Google. Just try, experiment with them all. I know Tavily is very popular. They built their tool to be very effective with large language models, but and Perplexity is an excellent choice. So they just came out with Sonar API, which is basically agentic search behind the API. So I would not one is right or wrong than the other. Try them all. Yeah.
Another question, and I know I personally feel this. How do you prevent AI fatigue?
This is a tough one. So I will try my best. To be honest, LinkedIn is not bad. It's pretty good if you just want. I would pick one platform. There's Reddit, there's X, Twitter, LinkedIn. Try to stick to one. If I could recommend a few newsletters, right? I have probably 30 to 40 of them. You can't look at them all, right? It's just too much. But I would just pick one, mess around with them and see that's really all you can do, right? But yeah, the things come from the ground. That's why LinkedIn, Reddit, and Twitter, those are all the best places, Discord, etc. Right?
Awesome. One of our participants suggested we all go touch grass. I think that is absolutely true. Can't give any better recommendation than that. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.